Hello, guys. So today we're actually gonna go, or I'm gonna go over the notes. First things first, I'm gonna go over the vocabulary that we're gonna be learning. So we're gonna be going over what is called rational expressions, and we have a good example here. Now, what a rational expression is gonna be an expression that is a ratio of two polynomials. You're gonna be asking, well, you're using a lot of terminology here. So easiest thing to know is we have a fraction and we have an expression on the top and on the bottom. That's what it is. Okay, and what we're gonna be doing with these expressions is that we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go back and simplify them. Okay, so now simplifying this ones requires us to know, well, how to factor. Okay, so same skills that we learned last week, we're gonna be utilizing the same skills right now. So first things first, whenever it comes to simplifying rational expressions, we're gonna factor both the numerator, which is the one on the top, just in case you didn't know. We're gonna have to simplify the top one, and then we simplified also the bottom one. We're gonna be going one at a time, and then we're gonna see what we get. Now after that, you're gonna divide out any factors common to both the numerator and the denominator. So what this means is that if you have the same thing on the top of your fraction bar and on the bottom of your fraction bar, then you cancel them out because they become one. Right? So this is what I'm referring to. So let's just do a little line because I want to make sure you guys understand exactly what I'm referring to. So whenever we have the fraction line, this is our whole objective of the whole thing here. Let me see, can I pick this one? I'll pick that one. All right, so let's say we have a fraction line, right? So we just, okay, if it wants to work, let's say we have a fraction line, right? And I have different things on the top and the bottom. Let's say I have A, B, and C, okay? Now on the bottom, I only have 4, 3, and A, okay? So now this is what it is referring to whenever it's talking about we dividing any common things that we have on the numerator and denominator. So what do I have in common on the top and on the bottom? Well, if you're very observant, I'm going to notice I have an A here and A here. So what we can do, because this is a fraction, we can go ahead and cancel them out. So if I were to simplify this expression I just gave you, my answer would be B, C over 4, 3. Or 43 in this case. Well, no, let me put in multiplication sign just because we talk about like 4 and 3. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, that's exactly what we're going to be doing, but we're going to have to do some steps in between all this nonsense. All right, so that's the main thing when it comes to simplifying rationals. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Oops. I need to erase all of that. Let me erase it. No answers. All right, let's erase all this. All right, it's telling us to do something here. You kids can go ahead and read it, but I'm just going to show you the steps that I would have taken. So let's look at this problem first. Now, in this thing, I noticed I don't have any x squared, so we learned how to factor x squared. We don't know how to factor any higher degrees. And we're not going to worry about that because that's a little bit higher level math. So what can I do instead of doing that? Well, guess what? I have a lot of things in common whenever I look at these numbers and letters. So for example, I know I have 5, 10, and 25, which all of them are divided by 5. Also, I have x cubed, x squared, and x. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do something smart. We're going to be taking and we're going to be dividing all of this by certain things. So I'm going to start with this. Now, I'm going to grab this whole thing. 5x squared plus 10. Let me lower this a little bit, that way it looks a little better. Five x cubed plus 10x squared minus 25. Gotta do the following. I'm gonna go ahead and divide this one by 5. All of those numbers, okay? So it's gonna give me something different. So 5 divided by 5, it is 1x cubed. Now 5 divided by 10, it is 2x. Now 5 divided by 25 is negative 5. X, and that's x squared. Now, because I factored out the 5, I need to put it outside. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, but we're going to do with the x's, right? So we're going to go ahead, divide, and now we divide by x. What this is going to do is going to reduce the exponents by 1, okay? So this is what we're going to end up getting. Now we have 5 and x on the outside because we just divided by those. And we're going to end up with x squared plus 2x minus 5. Okay. I finished the top of my fraction. So I simplified all of this already. What we need to do now is we need to simplify the bottom. What is the only thing I can do to the bottom? Well, I can separate 10 into two different numbers, right? So 10 can be broken down into 2 and 5. And how many x's do I have? X. So this is what I'm going to do. I know I have an x, I have 5 over here, and an x over here. So what I can do, I'm going to both of them factor them out. So I'm going to factor a 5 and an x. So what would be left inside of V2? X. From here, you're going to notice that we have two of the same things. We have 5x and 5x. So what we're going to do, we're going to cancel them out. And my final answer is going to be x squared plus 2x minus 5 over 2x. That is my final answer. Okay. It might be a little convoluted. I'm not going to put a lot of those questions on there because a lot of you guys are having trouble just getting the greatest common factor, which means it's just whatever is the most common and the biggest number or letter. It depends on what you're comparing. But yeah, that's going to be my answer for that one. Now, the following problem is more the route that we're going to be going in class. So sample number 2 is going to be a little bit more of what we're going to be doing in class. Now, before I can simplify this whole thing, I need to simplify my numerator. Oh my God. We got to go ahead and simplify the numerator. How do we do this? Well, guess what? We have a trinomial, and one of the easiest ways to do this is by factoring. Now, if you don't remember what factor is, we're going to go ahead and do the big X, okay? Now, there's going to be a couple things that we need to know. We need to know our A, our B, and our C numbers. Now, A is going to be a 1 because there's a 1 in front of that X. So now, in order to get the top number on my X, I'm going to multiply A times C, which in this case is 1 times negative 3. So I'm going to get negative 3, okay? Then you're going to get B, and that goes on the bottom. B goes over here. So what is B in this case? 2. Once you're done with that, you're going to have to find factors, numbers that multiply to 3. And I'm going to go ahead and show you with a little arrow. This one comes over here. That's negative 3. So we need to find two numbers that give me that number if I multiply, so which is 1 and 3. And now you also, once you figure out all your numbers, you got to figure out which one, if you add it, also gives you 2. So this is a rule. I need to find two numbers, which in this case is 1 and 3, that if I multiply, give me 3 or negative 3, which is true, right? They both are going to give me 3 if I multiply it. Also, if I added those two numbers, they have to give me 2. Okay, so in this case, I need to make the 1 negative, because if I add 3 and negative 1, it gets me the 2. So I know my two numbers are going to be negative 1 and 3. Now that we have our two values here, all we have to put is put in parentheses as my factors. So I'm going to start with x and negative 1. And then x plus 3. Now, if you have a fraction, whenever you do your x method, then we're going to have to do something slightly different. But in this case, we don't have to divide by anything because 1, that's the rule. If you have 1, you don't have to divide by anything else you do. Now, if this is confusing for you, go ahead and just divide every time, and I'm going to show you how to do the fractions later on. Hopefully on one of the problems they show us. But now we have everything that we need. We have this simplified on the top. It's the same thing as this. So this whole thing is the same thing as this, but broken down. Okay, that's what all it means. So now we have x minus 1, x plus 3, and on the bottom we also have x plus 3. What we're going to do at this case, now that we have everything simplified, we just have to cancel out anything that we have on the top and the bottom. And guess what? We have those two that are the same on the top and the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and delete them. We don't need them no more. They're gone forever. So my final answer for this problem should be parentheses x minus 1. You don't have to put in parentheses. It's basically x minus 1. And that will be my answer for that one. That will be completely simplified. Now let's go ahead and do another one. We have number 2 here. Let me erase some of this. Up. Sorry. Oh my goodness. What the heck? There we go. Same thing, we're going to follow the same process. So we have number 3 now, okay? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and break it down, see if we can simplify anything, and look. This is what I'm referring to whenever you're working this type of problem. There's something that you're already going to know. This bottom one, I cannot simplify it at all, so I'm going to leave it alone. The one I'm going to focus on is this one on the top. Okay, now this one's a little tricky because we don't have a b. So whenever I write my ABC, A is equal to 1, right? Because there's a 1 right there. B is equal to 0 because there's none. And C is going to equal to negative 16. Now with that information, we can go ahead and write our x. So I'm going to do a big X. I know for a fact that A times C is going to give me a number. So in this case, I have 1 times negative 16, which is going to give me negative 16. On the bottom, we have 0, which is my b. Okay? From here, we just need to find factors of 16, which is 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3 doesn't have 1, and 4 and 4. Okay? Now, I need something that's going to give me 16, but also 0 if I add them. So guess what? I'm going to have to make one of them negative, because if I multiply, right? Multiply gives me negative 16. But if I add them, they give me 0. Okay, so that's the rule. So I know it's negative 4 and 4. Now, I also know that I do not have to divide by anything because this is 1, okay? It has to be bigger than 1 for you to start dividing. So we don't have to divide. I'm just going to rewrite this and this numbers into my fraction, my factors. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be x plus 4 and x minus 4. And you might be asking, where am I getting those from? Well, I'm getting this one from here and this one from all the way over here. Okay? Just plain and simple. We have our two factors on the top, and we just put whatever we had already on the bottom, x minus 4. Now, do I have anything that repeats on the top and the bottom? The answer is obviously yes. So we can go ahead and cancel them out. And the only thing that's left now is my answer for this was just going to be equals to x plus 4. And that is this one simplified all the way through. Okay, let's go ahead and go and do number 4. Same process, same stuff. But now I like this one because we have two different trinomials, right? The one on the top has a number other than 1 in the front. That means that we're going to have to go ahead and divide. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's simplify the one on top. So I know this is A, B, C. Draw my big X here. So it's gonna be what times what? Oh, what the heck? So it's gonna be 2 times 6 gets us 12. Bottom one is B, which is also 6. What? Not 6. What I'm talking about? 7. 7 this time. So we're just gonna put a 7 down there. Disregard that 3. Don't look at that. Let me erase it. All right, don't look at that. After I put my two numbers on the top and the bottom, we go ahead and do the t-shirt. And what number goes there? The one on the top, so 12. What gives me 12? 1 and 12. 2 and 6. 3 and 4. I think that's all of them. We have to decide which of all those is going to give me a 7. That one. So we're going to go ahead and put 3 and 4. But remember, we have a 2 in front. That means that we're going to have to divide both of them by 2. Now, if you can simplify the fraction, go ahead and simplify it. So this one turns into 2. This one stays as a fraction because we cannot simplify 3 over 2 unless we make it into decimal. So now I know I have 3 over 2 and 2. We have to turn them into parentheses. So whenever you just have a number, remember, you put x and then the number. But if you have a fraction like we do over here, your number on the bottom goes first. So it's going to be 2x. And your number on the top goes second, plus 3. That is my two factors for the trinomial on the top. So now we can go ahead and, well, I'll wait until the end. Let's do the bottom. Let's simplify the bottom, then we'll put them together. That's the top one. Now you have to do the same process with the bottom one, which we're going to follow the same process. This is A. This is B, which is 1 and 1. And this is C. Okay, so we do our big X. And from here, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and put A, which is 1, times -6. In this case, we're going to get -6. And what goes on the bottom is just B, which in this case is -1. And now we have all that we needed. Now we're going to go ahead and do a t-shirt. We're going to do a t-shirt here on the side. The first one is what? We need this number actually goes right here. -6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. We need to get a -1. Therefore, I need to use this 2. But the 3 has to be the -1. So it's going to be 2, -3. Now, I don't have any, this one's a 1, so we don't have to divide by anything. So my answer is just going to be x plus 2, x minus 3. There we go, we're done. Now we just need to put them how they're supposed to go. So if I rewrite my fraction, I'm going to put the top one. It's going to be 2x plus 3, parentheses, times x plus 2. And on the bottom, we're going to have x minus 3 and x plus 2. As you can see, what can we delete? Those 2. So, in theory, your answer, or in theory, so therefore your final answer is 2x plus 3 over x minus 3. That's how you simplify this whole thing. Seems like a lot, but it really isn't. It's just stuff that we've been doing in class for a while. All right, we have a few more. Well, actually, we got plenty of more, but let's go ahead and do some things here. Now, before I even do anything with this one, I'm going to simplify and factor out a number on the top and on the bottom. Now, all of my numbers are even, so I can delete a 2 on the top and on the bottom. So let's do that first. So on the top, it's going to look like this. I'm going to do it kind of in my head, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. So that's 2m. Now 4 divided by 2 is 2. M. and then minus 3. So I factored out the 2. We're going to do the same thing to the bottom. So we're going to take out, actually, you can do even a bigger number on the bottom. We can take out a 4. So the first one's going to be m squared plus 4m plus 3. Now we have everything that we need. We just kind of simplify house here. Now this 4 and that 2 is going to turn into a 1/2. So now we have 1/2 m squared plus 2m minus 3. On the bottom we have the same thing, m squared plus 4m plus 3. Before I can even do anything, we need to simplify both the top and the bottom. We just have to. We're going to have to go ahead and find the 2 factors. I'm going to start with the top one. We do our x. We do 1 times -3 is -3. 2 on the bottom. My t-chart. What gives me 3? 1 and 3. That's good enough. So I know this is 1, 3, and guess what? The 1 is negative. Now we write our factors. X minus 1, x plus 3. All right, that was pretty quick. Now let's do the other one. Same thing. I'm going to do it right here, right next to it. I'm going to do x. What goes on the top? 3. What goes on the bottom? 4. I can already tell what my answer is going to be. I need to get 3 right here, 1 and 3 again. But now both of them are positive. So now we have on the bottom x plus 1 and x plus 3. We put them where they're supposed to go. So my fraction right here, x plus 1, right? X plus 3. What do you think is going to happen? The 3's are going to cancel. Those 2 cancel. So my final answer, which I'm going to put in red, is this. 1 parentheses x minus 1 over 2 x plus 1. Okay, so it seems like a lot, but it really isn't. You just have to kind of break it down step by step. And that's how we solve that one. Now let's go ahead and do number 6. Same process, same process. Now number 6, kind of want to skip it because this one's going to be kind of weird for you guys. Because look, let me go ahead and show you all of that. Now, this is a special type. This is a degree 3, and you have to factor out. So actually 6, we're not going to do. I thought it was a different type of problem, but yes. We're not going to get to that one in this type because we haven't taught you how to go ahead and factor a trinomial like this guy. We haven't taught you how to factor a polynomial, I guess, which in this case we have a degree 3. We don't know how to do that, so we're just going to go ahead and skip that one. We don't need it. I'm actually going to delete it just so I don't get confused whenever I go over this in class. So now let's go over to the last couple of them. Now this one, I like this one a lot. It's very simple, but a lot of people get confused whenever it comes to this. Now here, we have 2 things that they look very similar, but at the same time, they're not very similar. They're not the same thing, at least not yet. Now over here, I have a positive 3x, and down here, I have a negative 3x and negative x, or negative 7 and positive 7. So as of right now, I can't cancel anything out. Okay? So guess what I can do? I can go ahead and I can factor out a negative on the bottom. So this is what I'm referring to. You can probably see it on the bottom already. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just like it says right there, we're going to factor out one of the negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor out this negative. So I'm going to take it out. So I'm going to take out a -1, which is going to look like this. Let me not erase. I can erase it. Yes, I can erase. It's going to look like this. So if I take, we're going to have the same stuff on the top. Let me change the color here. We have a 3x minus 7 on the top. It's going to stay the same. But on the bottom, we're going to take a -1. Okay? What that is going to do is going to change everything on the inside. So now we have negative 7 plus 3x, which if you rewrite it is the same thing as 3x minus 7, which is get what? Same thing on the top. So once that we have the top and bottom the same, guess what? We can cancel it out. So now we have the following. We're going to have 1, because it became 1, over negative 1, which just in turns into negative 1. So that one, actually, I like that one, because you just need to understand that sometimes you can just factor out certain things to give you the right answer. So in this case, we have to factor a negative in order to get the same thing on the top and on the bottom. All right, you just sometimes you're just going to have to be careful with those. All right, so that's my answer. And if you don't believe me, we can erase this whole thing. And it just becomes negative 1. Okay, same thing that I mentioned. Oh, there we go. We go to the final question here. Now, the final question is going to be done the same way. What can I do to the bottom? I'm going to factor out a negative on the bottom, but let's do the top first. So on the top, we know that we have a trinomial, so we're going to have to factor it, which means that we're going to have to do our x. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the x. I'm going to multiply 4 and 6, which in this case is negative 24. And on the bottom, it's going to give me negative 23. What two numbers give me 24? This one's easy. 1 and 24. Now, I know for a fact that the negative is going to have to be the 24 because I have a negative 23. Boom. Now, due to the fact that this guy is bigger than 1, we divide both sides by 4. Okay, so as we divide by 4, this one's going to turn into 4x plus 1. Remember, you always put the first one first. And the second one, guess what? It's going to turn into negative 6. So x minus 6. Now we have everything that we need. We have our two factors on the top. Now we just have to go ahead and kind of simplify the bottom, right? Because right now this guy and this guy are not the same. So we're going to have to factor out a negative on the bottom one. So this one's going to give me now x minus 6 once I do that. And we cancel those out. So my final answer is going to be negative, parentheses, 4x plus 1. Now, if you don't believe me, that's literally what they got. Right there, okay? So that's the methods that you solve all of those. The only one that I really didn't want to do was, I think, number 6. Because we haven't gone over degree 3s and how to factor those. And we're not going to go over it because it's pointless because we're not going to cover on the test. So we basically just go over algebra 1 and this is it. We're done with this one. Hopefully you guys learned something from this one. It was a doozy. Some of the problems were kind of hard, but it is okay. So see you guys next time.